How are we doing, everybody? We good? Good. I'm glad that you are here. Thank you for joining online. And we are looking forward to an awesome time that we can participate with one another in talking about the Lord this evening. And I'm so thankful for His presence that's already here. And I'm thankful for your worshiping hearts. It's vital. And anyway, Shirley, Stephen, family, we miss you guys so much. And Shirley, I know Pastor just kind of hit on this, but I definitely cannot fill your shoes. I love hearing her speak every Wednesday night. She does a phenomenal job, and it's been an honor growing up and seeing the growth that God has done in you. And then our First Lady, we love and miss you as well. We hate that you are sick once again, and enemy, leave her home right now in Jesus' name. But anyway, miss you guys. We are excited for tonight. I'm excited for tonight. Before we dive in, I just want to say, I know we came off of Pastor Appreciation this past Sunday, but one thing I really want to say is I am so thankful for leadership. I'm talking about our pastor and our community speaker tonight, and I know Brent is doing a phenomenal job upstairs, but I don't get to hear him. When he does speak down here, he always does an awesome job, so I know he does great up there. But I'm thankful for a pastor who has been giving us some bold messages. I'm also thankful for, go ahead. If you didn't clap, then you've not received them. So, just kidding. Loosen up, people. It's midweek. I know you're halfway tired, but we're going to enjoy ourselves, but also dive into the Word. But also, Pastor Shirley has been doing the same. And y'all, there's a trend going on right now in our church that God is trying to liven us up. He's trying to wake us up, get us to step out of our boxes and understand that the availability that He's calling us to be requires what? Some commitment. It requires some surrender. And more than anything, it requires some refining. And so tonight, I want to talk to you about a few of those things. And so, before we get started, I want everybody to say this with me. Say it out, I am available. Okay, you sound really puny, and if the Lord was depending on your availability, it would not happen. So I want you to say it one more time. Those that are online, say it with us too. I am available. Okay, one last time. I want us to get it in our systems right now. I am available. Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. If you'll start us on that first slide for me, gentlemen. We are talking about what Pastor Shirley has been speaking to us. I wanted to continue this and not in a way of trying to fill her shoes, but I believe that God is really speaking this to us right now, and that is being available. The available church, that has been Pastor Shirley's theme over the past couple of weeks. It's the theme of this month, and so I want to stick with that. Something that's really been within my spirit, and mind you, I just want to go ahead and give a precursor here. The things that I'm discussing tonight, it's not pointed. If anything, it's pointed to myself. God has dealt with a lot of things over the past month, the couple of months, about refining me and things that I'm just really missing the mark. And in order for us to be available, the available church that God has called us to be, we've got to start listening and being obedient. God has told you something specific. He's told you some things that you need to lay down. He's told you some people that you don't need to hang out with anymore. He's been very specific. So tonight, we're going to talk about some of those things. And so the available church, tonight we're going to be talking about less of me. And this is coming from one of the verses that we sang this evening. Available, this is by Elevation Worship. This has been the theme song that Pastor Shirley has been using over the past couple of weeks. That second verse that says, "Here I am with open arms, counting on your grace again. Less of me and more of you. I just want to see you move." All right, so here's the thing I'm going to focus on right now. Less of me and more of you. So we're going to focus on the less of me portion. So what a great topic that Shirley has picked for this month. I feel like it's very vital. Y'all, we need to be more available than ever before. We're living in hard times. How many could agree with that? We're living in some hard times. There are some people that are sitting in this room now that can say, 2020 has been my worst year. It's been my worst year financially. It's been my worst year on a health aspect. It's been my worst year relationally, whatever it may be. We can say that 2020 has went straight to trash, right? Come on, church, wake up a little bit. What's going to happen is if you don't respond, I'm going to be like Pastor Keith, and then we're going to go till 15 after 8:30, okay? All right, no, just come on, speak to me for a little bit. We're just all talking to one another, okay? So there's a lot that's been going on, and the great thing is that we do have a Father who can really turn things around, right? But in order for those things to turn around, what's it do? It requires something from us. So times of struggle, financially, relationally, personally, socially, spiritually, the list could go on. So how available is the church? The church as a whole, like talking about the United States, we're talking broad. How available is the church? Okay, let's make it a little bit more personal. How available is Covenant Church? Are we doing our part? How available are we as a church? Let's get real personal. How available are you? Oh, it's easy. We can be available for our family. A crisis happens. You know, like right now, the McConnells are really dealing with a situation with Travis, and we're believing for a divine miracle, but that's where they're at, right? It's easy to really pull together when it's a family issue, when it's a family problem, or when it's a personal problem. But when we talk about the availability of what God has called us to be, and we're talking about expanding His kingdom, that requires a lot more from us, less of us, and more of Him, right? So this evening, I'm going to be providing some statistics, and I'm going to give you a video here in a little bit, but I want to give you an idea, perspective on where we are as a world. So bear with me. We got a lot of statistics we're going to walk through, but there is a point to this. All right, so homegroups.org states this. There is not one county in the U.S. where Christianity is on the increase. 50% of evangelical churches didn't have a single conversion in the last year. 8 churches a day close their doors. 12% of Christians, we're talking about people who attend church and are believers, give finances on a regular basis. On average, though, Christians give 2% of their income. 560% increase in violent crime. 400% increase in illegitimate births. 400% increase in the divorce rate. 300% increase in single-parent homes, and 200% increase in teenage suicides. 48%, only 48% of Americans can immediately come up with $400 in emergency cash without borrowing it or selling something. 54%, for the first time ever, more than half of all U.S. doctors support the legalization of assisted suicide. 64%, it would be a great understatement to say that pornography is popular with men in America. This is true even among men that are supposed to be religious. So, for example, one survey discovered that 64% of all Christian men ages 31 to 49 look at porn at least monthly. There's a bug. Yeah, he went to see the Lord, we hope. 4 million, right now there are more than 4 million adult websites on the internet, and they get more traffic than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter combined. Sickening. 110 million, approximately 1/3 of the entire population of the United States, 110 million people, currently has a sexually transmitted disease according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And by the way, the statistics that I just read to you were 4 years ago. So can you imagine where we're at now? All right, let's move on. Worldometers, this is actually present right now. Worldometers.info states, according to the World Health Association, every year in the world there are an estimated 40 to 50 million abortions. This corresponds to approximately 125,000 abortions per day. In the U.S., where nearly half of pregnancies are unintended, and 4 in 10 of those are terminated by abortion, there are over 3,000 abortions per day. 22% of all pregnancies in the U.S., excluding miscarriages, end in abortion. So I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a broad spectrum. I wanted to talk about the church. I wanted to talk about where the world is, just different aspects of to be honest, about me. Like, I'm saying me as in all of us. Like, these are things that we deal with on a daily basis. We know somebody that deals with this, and these are things that many of us intend to deal with on a daily basis. There's intention behind all of the things that I just said. Many of us choose on a daily basis to abide in one of those things that I just mentioned. So we know that Shirley has paved the foundation of this series with Elevation Worship song available. And we're pulling from this verse 2, less of me and more of you. So how sobering it is to understand that we have a me problem. We have a me problem. We have a pastor who speaks to us every Sunday morning, and it's heartbreaking to know that what God is speaking to him, every week there's something that God is trying to refine in us. So much as that pastor for weeks has been saying some of the same things. And the problem is we're not doing nothing about it. So the Lord keeps telling him, do it again. Talk about it again. I need my available church. I need my people. I need my people to pull it together. So our core verse this evening, it comes from John 3:30. He must become greater and greater, and I must become less and less. So the statistics that we've read, it's easy to assert that we have a me problem, and there isn't much of a less of me mentality consuming our daily walk. We all, sitting here right now, can think of something specific where we don't involve the less of me tactic. We can sit here and say we know something specifically that it is all about me, right? We're a stubborn individual as a whole, and as long as the Lord and what He has called us to do, or what the pastor has asked of us, doesn't interrupt our agenda, we are set. We want mine to work in the front. It's something that we enjoy. Now, if it involves kids, I don't have the patience. Someone else can step up. Or I'm good to start my own little thing since what the pastor asked of me wasn't my kind of ministry. I will do enough to be noticed, but that's it. I've always heard it said, attitude reflects leadership. So if you're unwilling to serve under leadership, what makes you think you can be the leadership? And on top of that, if your followers see your inability to serve, guess what you'll be producing? We live in such a divisive moment. So we know that we're having issues where some people believe a specific way about COVID, some people believe another way about COVID. Some believe a bit different way about our politics than the other. Some believe a different way than how the pastor is handling things right now and how he should or shouldn't have done it. So we're living in a moment where people just decide to do their own thing. So that means whether you want to go out and just dive into the sin world or you want to start your own ministry, whatever it may be. But the thing is that God, there's a line, there's something that we have to abide by. So here's the thing. John 18, let me get this right, I can't really see that for a second. No, John 15, 5 through 8, this is the Message version. It says, I am the vine and you are the branches. When you're joined with me and I with you, the relation intimate and organic, the harvest is sure to be abundant. Separated, you can't produce a thing, and anyone who separates from me is dead wood, gathered up and thrown on the bonfire. But if you make yourselves at home with me and my words are at home in you, you can be sure that whatever you ask will be listened to and acted upon. This is how my Father shows who He is. When you produce grapes, when you mature as my disciples. What kind of maturity level are we on right now? Where would you place our church right now? What kind of maturity level are we leaning in right now? Are we throwing out some deadwood on the bonfire? Are we providing grapes when people walk into this church? So let's make it more personal. So what kind of maturity level are you living on? Are you giving us some deadwood? Are you giving yourself some deadwood on the bonfire? Or are you producing grapes for your family, for your friends, those that you surround? You know, this isn't an easy topic, and we're talking about refining areas in our lives that we hate to ruffle, let alone anyone else bring it up. And I know that I'm standing here, and it's not easy to talk about these kinds of things, but I do want to make mention. I want to let you know I'm talking about these things because God is speaking to me. He is trying to refine areas in my life, and I just want to convey it just as much. In order for us to be available, we have to be holy as a whole, entirely available to the King. All of us surrendered at his feet. You know, his word tells us in Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. We can't knock down these mountains. We can't knock down the situations. We can't knock down the struggle on our own. It's only through him and by him. When we rely solely on faith in the Son of God, things shift and they transform. But we can't rely on Aaron Williams. We can't rely on Sister Kathy. We have to rely on him. Faith in him, and I promise you, things begin to transform. How many have watched this documentary? It is so like polarizing in so many ways. Parents, I would suggest get Netflix if you don't have it for just a week. There's probably a free trial, and watch this documentary. You need to understand what your children are holding in their hand and better understand that it is intentional, the things that they see. It is intentional to understand that any form of like, any form of image that they're coming across, it's all intentional. It's to grab their attention and to keep it for hours upon hours upon hours. How many have TikTok? Anybody have TikTok in the room? Okay. Tori, would you maybe say that it's easy to get lost in TikTok for like an hour? Easy, right? I'm telling you, the intention of these apps are to grab and keep you. All right, so we're going to move forward in this. I want to give you a statistic here. I don't know if you can read this, but I'm going to read it to you. American adults spent about 3 hours and 30 minutes a day using the mobile internet in 2019, an increase of about 20 minutes from a year earlier, according to measurement company Zenith. The firm expects that time to grow to over 4 hours in 2021. Top smartphone users currently spend 4 hours and 30 minutes per day on those devices. According to productivity software company Rescue Time, which estimates average phone usage to be 3 hours and 15 minutes per day. Now, I have to show you this. I thought this was quite funny. Thoughts and prayers to everyone who just got their weekly screen time report. This came out during quarantine. When the first quarantine portion hit, this tweet was out, and I found it to be very funny. Thoughts and prayers to everyone who just got their weekly screen time report. If you do not know, if you have an iPhone, it does keep up with what your screen time is. I keep saying scream, and I mean screen. Screen time is, it will tell you how long you've been on your phone for the week, the average amount of time you were on your phone for the week. It will also even pull it down to how long you were on Snapchat, how long you were on Instagram. It lets you know. The idea was that they created this to try to bring this stuff down, but it's not. The numbers are not going down, the hours are not going down, they're just only going up. But you can actually see how much time you are spending on any form of those social platforms through an iPhone. It keeps up with that. And they also send it out as information too. So the documentary was polarizing, and I was stunned. It made sense. So I want to read you a writing that was inspired from this documentary real quick. And I'm going to hurry because I want to get to a time that we can spend in the altars. This is called Social Cycles. So I'm going to start off with this. This is actually in the documentary. There are only 2 industries that call their customers users: illegal drugs and software. Friends, if any of you know me well, you know that I go on social media hiatus fairly often. Many times it's because I'm fasting for a certain period to better evaluate my spiritual life and give things up for God during those periods. I'm learning more and more, unfortunately, that it contributes more negativity on a mental level than I ever thought it could. I just watched a documentary on Netflix that was polarizing, and The Social Dilemma. The statistics and information backing how these platforms are learning our behaviors mentally and socially are devastating. Anything to engage us, they'll target additional time given. Your well-being is not a factor. Why do we get so focused on a streak? Okay, for those that do not know what a streak is, we're not talking about like Ray Stevens, that's why they called him the streak. What we're talking about is if you have Snapchat, actually for those that have the Bible app, they have now involved it with the Bible app. But Snapchat, it is literally a crime. People have even been known to cry if a streak is broken on Snapchat. If I am Snapchatting Tori today and I snap her tomorrow and the next day, then a streak begins. If for some reason I miss snapping her for a day, that streak ends. We're talking about people who have 1,000-day streaks, and it is literally like an emotional breakdown if those are broken. Tori, what would you say your biggest one is right now? 250. That's pretty good. So you've let them die a little bit. All right, so I wanted to let you know what a streak is. So why do we ever pass on the knowledge or learn about snap count? So I want to let you know what a snap count is. So how many times that Tori sends a snap through Snapchat, a picture, how many times she opens the Snapchat, it's counted. And people, if you ever look at these numbers, it is like a big deal when you hit 100,000 and you get over 100,000 and you hit 200,000. I'm telling you, this is what these apps are doing. They're utilizing these kinds of things to keep people on an app, a platform. So here's another thing I want to add that this says. So how and what makes them actually tick up and count? And I just explained that. You know, their count's going up and yours are never opened. It gets so bad that, say, Tori is in a relationship and her boyfriend is not snapping her back. So what she can do is she can go to that snap count and see, are his numbers going up? Because if they're going up and mine's not open, then he's ignoring me. Okay? I'm telling you, this is how wrapped up we can get in these kinds of things. So, anyway, you're obviously being avoided is the idea. You're being avoided. The snap counts are going up, and you're being avoided. That's the idea. So let's move on. Images you've spent more time on. So let's talk about Instagram. So if you've looked at a specific image, especially in the ones that necessarily don't involve a friend, like you go in a different space of Instagram and see things that are coming through as far as so if I love food and I've looked at an image for over 10 seconds, and it starts seeing that I'm looking at this image longer than the other, that's what it's going to start infiltrating through your feeds. It's all calculated. So if you have a wandering eye, it knows it and it will feed it. You have a shopping problem, it knows it, it'll feed it. These algorithms are set to keep our attention and time, no matter the cost, financially, physically, intellectually, mentally, or far worse, morally, spiritually. These very things I've fallen victim of way too often. But why? So the past week I began to analyze why I have spiraled so much with my mental health and the inability to come up for air and the lies being fed in my mind. I've struggled being the husband I'm called to be to my wife. I've struggled navigating parenting, being a better son, brother, friend, human, period. So let me give you an example. We lost our baby at the beginning of the year. So guess what consumes our feeds? Baby beds, announcements, fertility remedies, similar miscarriage stories, baby names, clothing for babies, etc. It's no coincidence. It's going to feed that to you. His word speaks candidly about our thought process and the importance of being holy as he is, and it's not easy, period. This is why the enemy combats holiness the best he knows how. What better way to do so than by using the tools we have in our hands? So as I begin to potentially eliminate what consumes me, I would challenge you to analyze what has hold of you. Parents, our youth are being robbed. Literally, they're being robbed. They're targeted, whether you want to live in reality or not. In my opinion, it's even mentioned in the documentary, I would challenge you to limit your kids with their social apps. These apps promote addictions to all sorts of things and mental instability more than not. The suicide rates that's mentioned in this are terrible. Well over 100% of suicide rates from the ages of I believe 9 to 16. It is outrageous what these social apps are doing. And many fall back to a social app contributing to their detriment. So, you're literally seeing a teen take their picture 30 times to get the right picture, and they post it. Well, it didn't get enough likes, so they'll delete it and then add another filter and put it up. And once it starts getting the likes that they like, they'll leave it up there. But then they have a negative comment, and then it starts leading to these things of cutting and all sorts of, I'm telling you, parents, pay attention. Friend, young and older, I value our relationship. I value your well-being. I want to see you succeed. I definitely do not want to be a contributor to a downfall. I wouldn't be able to handle knowing that. I'm a victim. I've engaged. I've contributed. I've believed the lies they feed. These social apps have caused discord of different spaces in my lifespan. I have more to give. I have more to live. I refuse to allow a snap streak or count, a disregard of an immediate response, or a like on Facebook, the latest news grab, images, political debate. The list is endless. Snag my joy, my integrity, and walk with Christ. And finally, they listed below in this piece, don't copy the behavior and customs of the world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Romans 12:2. If you didn't catch on, I wrote this. And I wanted to share this with you this evening. I thought about sharing it when I wrote it a month back or so. But it was a vulnerable piece, and there are some things that I just did omit for the evening for time. But I want you to know that you're not alone in dealing with things and in dealing with the problem of me, in turning to me all the time as opposed to involving less of me and more of him. And so I wanted to throw out some vulnerability here. It's just my thoughts. I knew I needed to get them out and share them. I don't want you to think this message is targeted at all. So what has you engaged? What has you engaged? What are you allowing those around you to be engaged in? Come on, the word of the Lord talks about blood being on our hands. Parents, I'm telling you, for the first time ever before, God has changed, he's rocked my world so much this year, but now that I have a responsibility of a wife in my home and have a 19-year-old stepson, it is important that I in no way present blood on my hands because of the things that I'm doing. It is important. Because you reap what you sow, and unfortunately, the sowing may come through your child, right? Parents, learn this, the ins and outs of social apps. I do want to let you know this. Parents, if you don't know this, in Snapchat, there's actually a passcode section where they can actually save pictures that they don't want to be seen. Just letting you know. They feed secrecy. And we all, myself, know that most of our sin breeds in secrecy and in the dark. So don't think the enemy won't utilize those possibilities on our kids and use them on us, right? All right, let's move forward. I know I got to hurry here. I get real passionate about this. This is from The Truman Show, and it says, we accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that. We know what the reality of our world is right now, but let's switch it up. Let's switch the quote up. What reality are you giving to the world? What reality am I giving to the world? What reality am I presenting to the world? It doesn't matter if it's blatant for anyone and everyone to know, or in our deepest of thoughts to ourselves, we are presenting something, and it's eventually going to present a standard. The more you think on it, the more you ponder on it, it's going to become a standard. It's going to be something that you faithfully walk out every day. So hypothetical, if we were called to a confessional and our lives depended on it, we had to lay our thoughts and actions out. They had to be known. How would that work out for us? What would we feel comfortable to do so? If we had to lay out our thoughts and actions, would we feel comfortable to do so? Toby said it Sunday night. We all have something that only us and the Lord know. You see, the scenario will happen. He is coming. And we will answer for every decision that we make. He will lay it all out before us, where we've missed it and where we've gotten it right. But here's the catch. An eternity will be spent somewhere. It will be spent somewhere. And Lord, I do not want to have something laid out before me and know that I didn't make it with my wife and my stepson. I didn't make it, and my family made it. Because, y'all, we can fool everybody as a whole. I can live a life for you, and then our thought process can be a whole nother lifestyle, right? Let's move forward here to the end. Well, I went back, didn't I? I like this quote. Jesus is the fulfillment of all desires. Your sin issue is the fact that you haven't released it. What are you not releasing? Your very obedience could be the catapult to revival we have been speaking over our church and family for years. We want to believe that what? We are in revival. We've not said it in a hot minute, but we want to believe that we are in revival. But revival only comes with a submissive surrender. We have some work cut out for us. I'm going to move here to the end, and we're getting close here, y'all. I'm trying to end this here. I got about 5 more minutes, and I want us to have some altar space. I've taken a lot of time to talk about me, talk about us, the things that we're dealing with. I've given you a broad spectrum of statistics, things that are going on in our world today, things that are going on in our world, in our home today. So this is where the rubber meets the road. In the last portion of this verse, it says, I just want to see you move. I just want to see you move. I spent entirely too much time talking about personal faults, worldviews, wayward thinking, even statistics to back it up. Too much time. But don't you find that it aligns with the way that we live our lives out? Too much time spent on ourselves, fulfilling personal desires, good or bad, but days spent focusing on us, not Him. Too much time on us. To see these lyrics come alive, I just want to see you move, Lord. I just want to see you move. Too many times we worry about the move of the Lord being too much. What it could look like, feel like, so we limit Him. We strategize the right moment. I'll do this, Lord, when this happens. So if Tori, I'm just using your name all night. So when Tori goes up to the altar, then I'll go. What if revival is to start in Tori because Nova is obedient prior to her? What if Tori has been talking to God and pleading for something specific, and what if? I know that's kind of a hard thing to grasp, but listen, just a couple of weeks ago when Tana was obedient on stage, and she began to pray for some specific people, and not even because it involved me, but the idea that she was obedient and she heard God and she stepped out of her comfort zone, I can promise you the Lord moved. And how many knows how the service went that night, right? So we know that these ideas of strategizing with the Lord and not wanting to be giving God to be less of me and more of Him, we know that it's not how revival looks. The things that we're calling on, saying, Lord, we are in revival, it can't happen, y'all, if these things aren't laid down. So look at Ezekiel 37. It's a divine replica of what God longs to do within us. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord, and what? Live. I thought maybe some people pick up on that because we do sing that. Dry bones hear the word of the Lord and live. So can you imagine what His presence would be like in a moment like this? Ezekiel's description is exhilarating. His power, God's power, was so real in that moment. So let's talk about Acts 2. We are, if you do not know, an Acts 2 church. A move of His Spirit like never experienced before, gifting of tongues being unfolded so much that their tongues were literally expressing His words in multiple languages, a language they couldn't speak but God, right? Many all over the world understanding what God was saying because of the presence of His Spirit and the obedience of the believer. Peter even then speaks and prophesies about the last days and what will become of it. God will what? Pour out his Spirit on every kind of people. Every kind of people. Sons and daughters will prophesy. Young men will see visions. Old men will dream dreams. Wonders in the sky. Signs on the earth. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we were experiencing this right now? Shouldn't moments like these revitalize our churches and homes and youth, upcoming generations, change the course of our political discord? So many things. It can. That's the thing. That's why we read his word. It can come alive. These things can happen. He can move in this way and more. It is solely up to us. Solely up to us. How dedicated are you? How determined are you? What petty struggle are you holding on to that is limiting him, moving in us the way we know he desires? God has spoke to you. I promise you. There is not one person in this room that has not laid down at night and God has begun to speak to you and said, Aaron, you need to give this up. If you don't give this up, this is what's going to happen. God is speaking. He is speaking hard right now. He is trying to move us into a direction of what Acts 2 says will come alive and happen. So what consumes us? Is it a social app? Are you spending 4 hours a day on just a social app to have a conversation? Is it a relationship? Are we too angry? The inability to submit to his call, what he is speaking to you. Grudges, selfishness, stubbornness, it all has to be on your terms. Finances. These things are limiting us from experiencing a move. The reason why we have not had what God spoke, mind you, over our church, why we've not had an ambulance pull up to the front and bring someone in through here because they knew they would be healed is because we are not doing our part. In order for that to happen, we got to start doing our part, right? So if we will, let's pull the lights down for a second, gentlemen. And Magoo, you can go ahead and start that music. What is consuming you? What is limiting you? What is holding you back? Why is our mouths running and trashing individuals? Why are all these taking place? Why can't we move forward? Because we're human, and we rely on Aaron, and we're not relying on him. So can we just take a moment? Just a moment. Close your eyes. I want you to be real with God. Something that I've been doing. I've been taking up on jogging again. I'm nowhere near the caliber of Sam and Candace over here. But during my jogs, I've been real with God about some things that I'm just wore out with. And there are some things that I'm wanting to see take place in my family, in my extended family, in my own personal life, and in this church. And one of the biggest things I want to see is I want to see the power of God transcend in this room. I want to see and experience a tangible move of God that no one can walk out of this room because they know it's real. It's no longer a fake situation. It's no longer people just play in church, but it is a real divine encounter. So Lord, what area can you refine me in? What area, God, can you burn within me, Lord, that no longer is the limiter up here on this stage, God. I don't want to be standing behind a keyboard. I don't want to be standing behind this pulpit and be limiting what God intends for this church, limiting what God intends for our family, limiting for what God intends for my stepson, limiting for what I will not be a part of that. I will not play a role. I will not do it. And you shouldn't either. We should not be contributing to ourselves, but to his kingdom. So here's what I want us to do. I want us to stand. I know this is a little bit different than a Wednesday night. It's sometimes chill, and we just dismiss pretty quickly. Those that are at home, this is a moment that we provide an altar time. And if God is speaking to you at home right now, I pray and believe that you are speaking to him right now and that you are making some things right, that you are making some changes, and that tonight, as Pastor says all the time, is a mile marker for you. If you need to kneel down, go throw on a TBN, a worship song, something, but give God some of your time. He deserves it. He deserves it.